Yeah, it's a wonderful encounter here.
Yeah, I have 2 more people joining us tonight, but yeah, I have some other people that have checked in, so we're just gonna be a little bit.
No problem.
My name is Gracie. I'll give proper introductions here in a minute, but we're actually not gonna start here. We're gonna start just a little bit down the way, so please do follow me. I am loud. It is hard to miss me. There's a lot of music, a lot of people. It's Labor Day weekend, so party. So just follow me, try to keep in a tight group, keep an eye on your little, and just...
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to ask you guys where you guys are from. Quite a bunch. Wow. Well, welcome to Florida. Have you been to St. Augustine before? Yes? Like 4 times. Wow. That's awesome. Have I asked you that yet? No, but... No? Okay. It's hard to remember. If my brain isn't attached to my body, I forget it. You have pretzels. You're getting pretzels and water. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna grab a tray. You guys are at the back door, and right next to it on the left-hand side, your guys' left, there's water inside. So please do grab a water bottle. Now, if I am not caught up to you by this time, all the way back of the courtyard, there's a reserved section. Please do have a seat there and wait for me. Awesome. Follow me.
Of course.
Alright, here's the water, guys. Alright, just keep going. We're going to go in the reserved area. We are. Alright. VIPs.
Alright. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't it nice back here? I love this courtyard so much.
Me too.
Here are your pretzels. There's some mustard in here. I think there's some cheese also. Oh, spicy brown mustard. So there's just mustard for you guys.
Okay.
So please do grab. But 459 years. And in those 459 years, things are bound to happen. Tragedy is bound to struck. We've had diseases. We've had battles fought on St. Augustine soil. We've had mysterious circumstances happen. Now, actually, our haunted history actually started in the very beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, our first day in St. Augustine. Now, for those of us who have been here before or have been here all day, I'm sure that we've seen the bayfront, right? We've seen the houseboats. It's over by the fort. We've walked on it. It's nice. It's a nice breeze. The salt water clears out your sinuses. It's very nice. Well, maybe not so nice, right? Now, all the way back 459 years ago, the Spanish was the ones that founded St. Augustine. And in Jacksonville, which is about an hour or so away from here, we had the French Protestants. The Catholics were the Spanish. And they did not like the fact that we were so close to Protestants. So what did they do? I'm pretty sure... Who said massacre? Awesome. You spoiled the whole story. I'll get to that. I'm going to make it a little more colorful. I'm sure we've seen the plaza, right? The plaza, it's got the nice, beautiful gazebo. And during Christmas time, it's decorated for Christmas. We have a beautiful big Christmas tree. Right across this street is the Bridge of Lions. And you take that bridge over to an island called Anastasia Island. And in between that is the bay. Now, do we know the name of the bay? Do we know what it's called? Matanzas.
Matanzas Bay.
Matanzas Bay. Now, do we know what that means in Spanish?
We should.
Oh, really? No guesses. We don't want to guess what it means.
Massacre.
Massacre! It means massacre or slaughter or murder. Now, actually, originally, it was called the Bay of the Dancing Dolphins. Now, by the end of the story, I want you to, decide if you want to keep calling it that or if you want to go back to massacre, slaughter, murder. Now, the Spanish decided they wanted to meet up with the Protestants on Anastasia Island. They basically told them, you have to convert to Catholicism, you cannot be Protestant when you're so close to me. Now, in that time, Jacksonville was probably days away. Now it's about an hour. We've got Siri telling us where to go. Oftentimes I find myself telling her to shut up, but that's just me. But at that time it was a long ways away. But they said, you're too close, you have to be Catholic. The French said no. So what did they do? They massacred them by lining up 40 men and chopping their heads off in one big swoop. Just kidding, that's dramatic. I'm being dramatic here. Not in one big swoop. But they chopped off all their heads and they took them and they threw them in the bay. Yeah. Ew. Now, we've seen the houseboats on there, right? Mm-hmm. I think it'd be nice, if you're not too seasick, to live on a boat with the nice breeze always there. It's beautiful. However, sometimes when you're living out in the boat, say, just imagine this, right? You come home after working or being with some friends. You go on your boat, you're tired, so you take a shower. Or, you make up your bed, you get something to eat, something. When all of a sudden you feel a bump on the bottom of your boat. Now, you're living out on this inlet, and you're gonna assume that it's a shark or a fish or something. So they kind of just ignore it. But after some time, the knocking continues and it starts to get repetitive. Hello. Oh, okay. No worries. No, it's okay.
That works.
But over time, the knocking continues, the bumping continues, and it becomes annoying. You get agitated, you're exhausted. So what they do is, if you're old-fashioned like me and this is what you wear on a normal basis, you have this lantern with you all the time. You take this lantern and you peek over the side of the boat. And what do you see?
Faces.
Heads. You see decapitated faces staring at you with their clouded eyes, their greenish bluish skin, and they're just at you. What is your first move?
Run back inside.
I'd scream for my mom if I were you. You're braver than I am. Now, so what they do is, if they live with somebody, they're going to call them. They're going to call them and they're going to say, I need you here. I need you to see what I'm seeing. Or, if it's kind of a ways away, they'll FaceTime them. I don't know what that means, because again, this is how I dress all the time. Just kidding, I have a phone. Try to be funny, people. Laugh! But, so they FaceTime. Did you say no? Now, they FaceTime them. And they point their phone over the boat. The face is gone. That is a very common phenomenon here in St. Augustine. Now, another one is, if you take pictures of the bay, you're more than likely to see light ribbons going across the bay. Some people say that those are the heads coming back. What they do with their heads. But that is St. Augustine, and that is what happened on day 1. And that is crazy to think about. But ever since then, things have been happening non-stop. Like I said, diseases, battles, the several mass burial sites, which is crazy to think about. We have so many. We shouldn't even have one. But hello, we're St. Augustine, we're weird, and we have 2, maybe even more. Everywhere you walk in St. Augustine, you're most likely stepping on a dead body. Just saying. Isn't that fun to think about?
So if I step on the ground, I'm still gonna step on it.
Yes, you are. Right there.
Ew.
Yeah, ew. I agree with you. Now, I see that we're kind of done with our pretzels. Does anybody want any more to take with them? Yeah? You can grab one. I'll let you do it. Maybe not you, because you were mean. Just kidding. You don't want one?
No, thank you. Don't be rude.
It's okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and discuss the kinds of different kinds of energies that we encounter here in St. Augustine before I begin. One of those being residual. Now, there's actually a great example. I'm not going to give the whole story just because I just talked a lot. Now I'm going to be talking again and But we walked past the Spanish bakery. Did we all notice that? Have we been to the Spanish bakery? Okay. Well, it has a cute little courtyard, a lot like this one, less lights, less brick, more gravel, more picnic benches, right? Excuse me. So, across the street is the Taberna. That Taberna used to be a theater. We had this guy in the theater that was in charge of packing and loading their company vehicle, which was in a parking lot behind the courtyard. Now, as he is walking from place to place, one of these little routines that he does, he walks inside the courtyard and he sees a woman dressed a lot like I am, picking up laundry out of a bucket, putting it on a line. Picking up laundry out of a bucket, putting it on a line. Eventually he noticed that her skirt was bellowing in the wind, and it was a night a lot like this one. There's no wind, and she disappeared. Now, I don't know what's scarier, having to do laundry for the rest of your life, or seeing a ghost.
Laundry.
Laundry. I agree. It never ends. And that dreaded sock box. Yeah? Anyway, we have something called intelligent spirits as well, and I think we can kind of assume what that means. Intelligent spirits are aware of us. They know about us, and they know that they could mess with us, because a lot of us are scared of them, right? And they know that they can touch us, and they can flick us. There's a lot of those around here. There's actually a great example at one of the cemeteries we're going to, and I see we have a couple. This guy is very fond of the ladies, and he gets jealous if she's with a guy. And so what he'll do is he'll trip the guy, but he doesn't have very good aim, so he'll trip the girl too sometimes. Oh no! Yeah, I'll try to point him out as we go there, but he likes to pull on hair, pull on the skirts and shirts, and he's just a handful. The next one is orbs, and I'm sure we've seen the ghost show, the movies. We know about orbs. Yeah, we get a lot of those, and I will get to the pictures here momentarily. But I think we're all done with our pretzels. There's a few more right here if we want to take those with us. Unfortunately, I can't take them with us, but if we want to take more pretzels, we are more than welcome to. If not, if we don't have room in our bags or in our bellies, we can go ahead and continue forward.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right.
A beautiful Victorian home. And I want, as we pass by, everybody to take in the beautiful architecture. Take in the paint. Take in the colors. Take in the trim on the roof and the staircase. Especially that staircase in the back. And I will point it out to you as we walk by, but I want us all to remember that as we walk to the front of the house.
Okay.
Wow. We kind of got almost a 360 view of this beautiful home. We have a couple of stragglers. But that staircase that I mentioned is actually right back there. And now we can have a better picture of it. And I want us all to remember that as we continue on with this story. But I want to give a little insight on this house.
Okay.
This is the 13th business that has been inside this home. The previous 12 had told us no. We were not allowed to stand here and talk about the Monday house. Somebody actually handcuffed themselves right across the street just to talk about this place. That's how big it is. And it is one of our hot spots. And actually, I told some of us tonight, surprise for those who don't know, but she likes me a lot. She likes my group a lot, so she might be a little active. Just saying. Now, Faye, we're gonna put this into perspective. Faye Shelton was an old woman, and she was a whopping 6'6". She was a tall woman, and in that tall stature, there was a big piece of attitude in that woman, let me tell you. Oh, she was mean. She was mean. She sat there right where that mannequin is, and actually I heard a rumor, it's dressed up as a pirate right now, but I heard that they're gonna start dressing it up as Faye Shelton, which I think is so funny. Anyway, she would stand right where that mannequin is, and she would look at you. She would glare at you. She acted as if this street was her street. Last time I checked, this was Spanish Street, not Faye Street, okay? Now, something about her house. It looks beautiful now, right? At the time, it was falling to pieces. Concrete was coming out of the walls. Paint was chipping inside. The staircases were actually coming up. And the pole was so rickety, and it was just becoming hard for this old, tall woman to be by herself in this house. And against everything she stood for, she decided to hire a contractor. And this contractor, for the sake of the story, his name is Emilio. Now, Emilio was a nice guy. He was described as having the patience of a saint. And he knew about Faye Shelton. Everybody knows about Faye. But he didn't care. He decided that he wanted to help her out. And so he did. He went down to the hardware store, he picked up some wood and some paint, and he helped her out. First thing he worked on was those stairs. And it took him a couple of weeks at that point. The entire time, Faye was over his shoulder, and she was screaming at him. That's not the right wood. I don't like that wood. That's not the right paint. What are you doing? That's not the right nail. The entire time. And I don't know about you, but this reminds me of somebody that I'm very close to. My mother-in-law. Yeah, Now, she would do this all the time. And Amelia just kept going. He kept fixing those stairs. And a couple of weeks later, he got to the top 3 steps. Now, Faye was at work this day, and she took a couple of weeks off because she wasn't feeling good, but in reality it was because she didn't want him to screw up her house, even though he was, like, licensed. So, anyway, she worked right down St. George Street, where I believe the Prohibition Kitchen is right now. It is, or was, the St. George Street Pharmacy, and she was a short order cook, and her co-workers hated her. Just like her neighbors hated her. Now, she was still feeling sick, but she went to work anyway. She needed to make money to pay Emilio. But he decided, hey, I'm home alone. I can finally take a break. So he sat down on those steps, pulled out his sandwich from his bag, the sandwich that he had made the morning of, and was so excited to eat that sandwich. When he finally put it up to his mouth, who comes marching in that door other than Faye Shelton? She comes home because she has a headache. She doesn't feel good. But she still comes home. And when she sees him sitting on those steps, she is livid. And she screams at him until he throws the sandwich in his bag, grabs his tool bag, and marches down the street back home. As he is leaving, he tells her, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the money. I don't want the money. I'm just gonna leave. And that's what he did. Now a day goes by. Faye was supposed to be at work and she's not at work. So they kind of just assumed that she was sick. They didn't really like her, so they were happy that it was finally quiet. Then a week goes by. Faye has not been seen outside her house or at work. The neighborhood and all of St. Augustine rejoice, and they're happy. They dance in the streets, and they are so excited that she is not at work or outside her house. Another week goes by. And a brave mailman decides that he's going to deliver her bill. So he marches up those steps, opens the mail slot, and what does he smell? Death. Death. I like death. Yeah. He smells Faye Shelton. And he gets scared. So he runs to a neighboring house, calls the police. They can't get in through the front door. They march through the back door. And what do they see? Faye Shelton laying in front of the door. Now, I mentioned those stairs, right? They're outside now, but they were inside. The Victorian homes, the stairs used to be right in front of the door. And that is what happened. Many assume that she tripped over a nail, or one of the boards poked up and tripped her.
Did she fall? The stairs collapsed?
No, she just fell and kind of
Fell down the
rolled
stairs.
down the stairs for a good minute.
And then died.
And then died. Yeah. And she was in her house for almost 3 weeks. Now, it is a beautiful, nice little store. The lady is nice here. She actually likes us talking about Faye. Now, I get to talk about pictures. Now, for those of us that want to take pictures, that window right up there is our hot spot. That is where Faye is seen all the time. Now, something about that window. One of my coworkers, his name is Dion. He's great, and he tells this story wonderfully. Something about him is on one of his tours, he got a picture of Faye Shelton. It was a woman standing in front of that window. Now, you might be looking at me, Gracie, it's just a woman standing in front of the window. How do you know it's Faye Shelton? Well, I can tell you. Let me get my flashlight out and I can explain. Now, that window, actually, where the bottom of the window is down, is about 3 feet. After that 3 feet is the floor. That marks the second floor. In the middle, where you can open the window, that's another 3 feet. That makes it 6 feet. She is seen in one of those top cans up there. So yeah, it is Faye. I don't want to hear that it's not. But I do recommend you take a picture of our hot spot window. Take multiple if you take pictures. Something about that, if you don't know, if we take multiple pictures, we're gonna let you of a donkey in one of the houses. Yeah.
I want to see it.
The ghost donkey.
I want to see it.
They took it out.
They took it out, unfortunately, but it's so cool. Anyway, this street, and we're gonna go ahead and keep walking. I can walk and talk. I can multitask. Okay, we don't have to go to the house again. We're gonna go to a couple of cemeteries.
Oh, yeah. Cemeteries.
Now, this street actually is one of St. Augustine's oldest residential neighborhoods. Now, everywhere around here in St. Augustine,
People still live here?
yeah, everywhere in St. Augustine are B&Bs or restaurants or things like that. These are still inhabited by people. These have been passed down through generation through generation. Yeah, and they are just gorgeous. I love these houses so much. Do we want to hear a story about an exploding bishop?
Oh.
Yeah, okay, that got you guys excited. Love this story. Now we're gonna walk a little bit more. Well, I want everybody to notice that blue house right up there. Do y'all see that beautiful house? That actually was the last house on the street. And guess how much it sold for? $2 million.
Wow, $2 million.
You can kind of assume how much these houses go for and how loved they are. Now, I'm sorry that I keep talking. I have a lot to say. Do any of us need to sit down? Do we need our knees regroup right around those little bumps over there? Now, this story, ladies and gentlemen, leads up to our next couple of stories. So, pay close attention. I know I talk a lot. Now, I know I promised an exploding bishop, and I'm going to give you an exploding bishop. So cool. Like I said, this leads up to our next couple of stories. We're actually going to go to where he is buried and talk about that a little bit more. The exploding bishop.
Who's a bishop?
He's someone in the church, like a priest.
And then we're going to be talking about something that we call the House of the Dead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I heard that in the movie probably.
Yeah? Ooh, spooky. So, Bishop, the exploding bishop, his name was Augustine Verreau. And he moved here in the late 1800s.
Did he explode?
How did you know?
The exploding bishop.
So, he moved here in the late 1800s. And now, Bishop Verreau was actually very well loved here in St. Augustine. He did so much for us. We had a couple of orphanages down St. George's Street. He would go there, he would help them find foster families, or actually real homes. And he would give them food and shelter. There were some homeless shelters that he did the same thing for, help them get jobs, help them find places to go. He was a very well-loved man. Now, a few years after he got his rounds out, after he helped everybody, he died. Very tragically. So, I mentioned the plaza before. Have we seen the cathedral that's over there? The big, beautiful church. You actually can take a tour, a free tour. Every day except for Sundays, that's when they have mass, but it's a free tour. And that is where his funeral was held. Now, he was kept in that cathedral for 9 days. Now, I feel like it's a good time now to mention that we did not get formaldehyde here in St. Augustine until 1901. And this is the late 1800s. I think we can imagine where this is going.
back then either.
Exactly. Something I didn't mention, it was June. And if it's August now and it is so hot, you can imagine how hot it was at this time. So their bright idea, ladies and gentlemen, we had another invention. 3 letters. The first letter starts with I.
Ice.
Ice.
Nice.
Quickest person that guessed that, actually. No joke. People take, really? What is it?
What?
Ice. They would take buckets and buckets of ice and pour it on the bishop. Now, I said this was June, hot. It started melting. And he eventually, after those 9 days, became Bishop Stew. Ugh. So, time for his funeral came. They didn't want to just put a platter out of Bishop and say, this is the guy that we lost. Very sad, cry about it. No. They wanted to give him an honorable little viewing. So, they came up with something. They put together a metal box, and on that metal box was a glass panel where his face was. The only part that was not Stew-like. So gross. But the funeral happened. Everybody in St. Augustine piled into that church. And actually, the church is big if we've been inside. But there were people piling outside of the church. That's how big this was. And so what they did was they had everybody say their goodbyes. They walked around, they kissed him, they prayed. And then the priest doing the ceremony starts speaking. When all of a sudden, he hears a noise. And he gets he stops. He swallows and he tries to keep going. When he keeps hearing the shh. So he has his friend lean in here. Listen. Boom! He explodes. The glass cracks and Bishop goes everywhere.
Wow.
All over the church. Yeah, there was Bishop in people's hair, Bishop in their teeth. Ugh, the people that were piling out of the cathedral were now spilling out in the streets, if you know what I mean. Now, because of this horrible event, they closed the cathedral for 3 days so that they can scrape Bishop off the walls, the ceilings, the pews, and off of people. Something in your hair. I hate to tell you, you got a little something in your hair. But that's what happened to the bishop. And I'm going to get to his burial in just a moment and continue this story. How about we go to the House of the Dead?
Why not?
Why not?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Now, we're coming up to one of St. Augustine's busiest roads. This road is loud. There's a lot of trucks that go down it. There's a lot of people that like to play loud music. So, oh yeah, I think they even do their own ghost tours, which I think is so cool. Anyway, yeah, I think so. But keep an eye on your little as we walk the street. We're gonna cross, and do we see that kind of castle-looking structure, that's where we're gonna be going. So
Of
everybody,
course.
please do follow me.
Okay, the castle structure. That's up ahead.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Bling, bling.
Bling bling. Horse. Nice.
What is it? House of Dreams. Very close. House of Dreams. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go on their website, you can actually see the suites that they offer. Each one is decorated differently. This is not a promo. I just really like this place. You can actually buy gift baskets if you have a birthday or if you're having an anniversary here. It's just lovely. I think it's now, I think it's time that I tell you what this was. Welcome to St. Augustine's one and only mortuary.
What's that?
What was that?
House of dead people.
It's where the dead bodies go. And the
Yeah.
doctors work on them.
So,
and they
as
get
I
them
said,
ready.
we didn't get formaldehyde here until 1901. But when we did, it was such a big invention that we wanted to share it to everybody. Wow. These windows went all the way down here. And they're actually on each or all four sides of the building. And with these windows, we're gonna imagine this real quick. They put a casket right there in front of the window where they put the dead people in for funerals. So that they can show everybody, look what we did, right? So I actually heard that they used to use these bodies as mannequins and put the latest fashions on these models. Now, at this point in time, we did not have obituaries, or we didn't have social media to find out if our favorite celebrity died. We didn't have phone numbers to find if our Aunt Linda had passed away. So what did they do? They would stroll down this street and take a look at all sides of the mortuary. Oh, there's Aunt Linda. She's right there. I didn't know she was sick. That's what would happen. It was horrible. But they were so proud of themselves. Now, here in St. Augustine, we flood. We're on sea level. And actually in Florida, we're not allowed to have basements because they will flood. So what did they do? Where did we do the embalmings? Because they didn't do it in front of the window. It was a lot of tubes, a lot of blood, a lot of grossness.
Ew.
Kitchen.
Yeah. No, not the kitchen. They used the top story. And that is where they did the embalmings. And actually, I have heard that is closed off to the public due to mysterious circumstances that have happened.
Oh, I didn't see anyone in there.
What happened up there?
Huh? Find. And if you don't believe me, go find them because they are real. Now, it looks like we have a big group over at our first cemetery. Why don't we continue on to a little legend here in St. Augustine, a little story. Now, we have one couple here tonight. You want to be my volunteers? Yeah? Okay, you're up front. Follow me.
Okay.
For the safety of everybody, we're going to cross the street so that we don't walk in this house of the dead. Hold on. Cross the street and then we're going to cross it again. A lot of walking. Hang on a second. It was written by Mr. Ripley,
Robert Ripley?
the man that did Ripley's Believe It or Not.
That's right.
Yep. He made this story in 1949. It's an old story, but it lasts here in St. Augustine because it is a beautiful one. Now, we're going to take a break from the death, the explosions, the meaning of the We're going to talk about a cute little tree. Now, imagine this. A lovely young couple gets married. Tradition at the time is for the couple to plant 2 trees. She chose a palm tree. He chose a mighty oak tree. And then, so they planted the trees. Now a year goes by, it hits their first anniversary together, and they go outside and they view the trees. And all of a sudden, the guy dies. Suddenly, tragically, heartbreakingly dies. He dies. He's dead. Now, a couple of weeks go by. She dies of a broken heart. So sad, so sudden, so tragic. Now, a couple more weeks go by, and the roots in the tree start to merge together. And now, my couple, we can turn around and we can take a look at the tree. We can take a look at the love tree. Do we see the oak tree and the palm tree merging together? Oh my God. We see the stems sticking out of the oak tree. Yeah.
They have one in Winter Park.
Yeah. Well, the story is if you kiss your loved one under the tree, you will be together for eternity. Aww. However,
We messed up.
eternity is a long time, so you better at least like the person that you kiss under this tree. I actually kissed my husband under this tree about 300 years ago. Yeah, that night at the Fountain of Youth was definitely a night to remember. I'm not saying much, we have little ears. But also, sometimes moms like to kiss their kids under this tree. A little warning. A little warning. Your kid will always be next to you asking you for money. It's for eternity. That was the story of the love tree, and everybody is still over at the Tolomato cemetery. Do we want to go to our other cemetery, or do we want to talk about it from here?
Well,
Cemetery first and we'll just come back.
well,
Are we going in a cemetery?
No.
no.
You were scared of the house, and you want to go inside a cemetery?
Yes.
I'll hike you over the fence. Don't.
Let's go to the entrance right over there.
Of tree logs, and it went all the way around St. Augustine. And actually, we look across the street, we see the city gates. We see that there's a wall kind of coming from that too. We see across the street from here, there's another wall. This wall will go all the way around St. Augustine. Now I want us to turn around. Our cemetery is right there. It's on the outside of St. Augustine. Now let's all think about that as we continue on to the front of the Huguenot cemetery.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
How are we all doing? We're doing good?
Yeah.
My cardio.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
just
Yes, of course.
No, I'm not. I have a lot of sugar. I need to how much sugar I eat.
Like I said, you're sweet.
Sugar not sweet?
Well, sugar is sweet, you know.
Thank you.
Let me eat it.
Sweaty, smelly little boy who bugs like to eat.
It was built in the year 1821, and it was an emergency cemetery. Yeah, and there's a reason it's on the outside. Now, in 1821, St. Augustine became a territory to the United States. We got rid of the Spanish, we were now Americans, and we now have freedom. And we could do what we wanted. And to celebrate, God gave us an epidemic called yellow fever, or the Spanish like to call it the Black Death, or the Black Vomit.
Oh, we're like called the yellow.
You can kind of assume the symptoms with black vomit, but I'll tell you them anyway. You would have, oh, there's people coming into the cemetery. If you see a shadow person, it's just an actual person. Was a death-like coma. And unfortunately, we had a few live. We're gonna take a look. There's I'm trying to light it up as best as I can, but there are 2 tombstones right there. In front of those tombstones, there are terracotta pipes sticking out of the ground. Did y'all see that? Once we learned about the live burials, how did we learn about this? Well, we exhumed some of the bodies. And in those coffins, fingernails on the bodies were bent backwards. They were coming off. A little tradition that we used to do was to bury our loved ones with pillows and blankets. And so it would make them a little bit more comfortable going on to the next part of their eternity. Those were ripped to pieces. So, what we did, we're going to go by.
Andy from the office might get by with
What? Anyway, so the terracotta pipes were hollow on the inside. And inside they would stick through some string. We're actually getting a breeze. Sorry about that.
Feels nice.
Feels nice. Oh. Once we go back to the other cemetery, it's gonna feel like death again. Just saying.
It's not even hot.
Anyway, the pipes were hollow on the inside, and they would feed a string through. The string was attached to either your pinky or your pinky toe. And on the other side was a bell. Now, a couple of phrases some of the phrases come from this epidemic, or actually this little technique. It was used all around the world for people that accidentally buried people alive, because we didn't know how to check for a pulse. But even if we did know how to do that at the time, our pulse was so weak, our breath was so shallow that you just could not detect it. So, some of the phrases. Graveyard shift. You were put out here, middle of the night, and we're gonna imagine that there's no street lights. There are no cars driving by. It is just you and your lantern by yourself in a graveyard, hopefully hearing some dinging. Go by. Now, another one, if you did ring the bell and the person doing the graveyard shift could not get to you on time, you are referred to as a dead ringer. But if they could get to you in time, you are referred to as Saved by the Bell, not the TV show. Yeah, but that's what happened. And a lot of people were saved by this and then eventually died again later. But at least they didn't die a horrible, agonizing, no breathing. They just died horribly, agonizing, throwing up their own blood, and then eventually dying from blood loss. Yeah, it was not fun. Now, we're gonna be, actually, before I get into the ghost that is in here, that we talk about often, this is one of the United States' most densely populated cemeteries. Now, again, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. You give us pretzels, Gracie. You take us to haunted parking lots. You talk about a tree. You know, what is wrong with you? We look at this and we see a lot of open ground. How is it the most densely populated? Well, there are 2 reasons for this. Now, there are 2 reasons for this. We look at these tombstones and we assume that there's one body under those. There are not 2 bodies under that cemetery, or the plot. There are not 3, but 4 or 5 bodies piled on top of each other. And whoever got on top was put on the tombstone. And that was a fun little game that they used to play. Whoever died last got their name on the tombstone and got honored. But again, that doesn't sound like this would make it the most densely populated, right? This open field back here, there's a lot of open ground, actually used to have more tombstones on them. But they were all wood. So they eventually rotted, or they got vandalized, which is why we are not allowed in this cemetery. Only workers are allowed in here. It's because of the vandalisms. But yeah, that is the Huguenot cemetery, and that's how it was created, with emergency outside of the city gates. And I'll mention that too, is it's outside because the people of St. Augustine, if you weren't already sick with it, then they would assume that keeping the bodies out here would keep them less sick. Now, let's go ahead and talk about our ghost. we're going to be talking about Honorable Judge Stickney. Now, Judge Stickney is actually in that chess piece looking tombstone all the way back there under the tree. My flashlight's doing the best it can to light that up for you, but did we all see that the best that we can? Big one. It looks like a chess piece. Yeah. And that's
Not
Judge.
chess.
Huh?
Not chess.
Yeah, that is the grave of Judge Stickney, the Honorable Judge Stickney. Now, he came to St. Augustine in the late 1800s, a lot like Bishop Perot. Well, he was known as something called a carpetbagger, which, if we remember from our history class, it's a person, a Yankee, that comes to the South for political and financial gain. But Judge Stickney was not like that. He came to St. Augustine to help us out. And so that's what he did. He packed up his 2 young daughters about his age and his wife, and they moved to St. Augustine. As soon as they got here, his wife died. But that didn't stop him from continuing his work and continuing to be there for his daughters, which is what he loved to do the most. Actually, because he loved his daughters so much, he developed quite the sweet tooth and lost all of his teeth in his mouth and got them replaced with gold teeth. That's how rich this guy was.
I have to silver teeth.
Yeah. Cool. I used to have silver teeth too. Now, a couple of years go by. His daughters are slightly older. They're in their teens now. And he decides that he wants to go back to New York for a business meeting. So he leaves his daughters here with a nanny. However, everybody, because yellow fever was still there, much like COVID, right? It was very, very active in 2020, but you can still get it now. This was just like yellow fever. But he decided that he needed to be there for his daughters. So he went back to New York, and when he got there, he was found dead in his little carriage in the train.
Oh,
He died from yellow fever.
yellow fever.
Yeah. Now, he was honorable for another reason, and that is because when he died, he made sure to put in his will, or actually before he died, when his wife had died, he put in his will that his good friend Judge Long would get his daughters. And so they had to pack up everything that they knew in St. Augustine and go back to New York that they barely remembered and live with Judge Long. Now, the girls at this point, several years go by, and Judge Long dies. But they're well into their adulthood at this point. They're about 18, 19 years old. And they decide they want both of their fathers to be buried in the same spot. So they hire this guy in St. Augustine to dig up Judge Stickney and take him back to Washington, D.C. But this guy was cheap for a reason. He was very scrawny and shaky, and he was scared of the dark. Again, cheap for a reason. So what he did was he bought a couple of spirits, if you know what I mean. Some drinks, some adult juice. Not saying those other things, just because you're a kid. But he bought some adult juice, and he drank it, and he drank it, and he drank it until he passed out under that tree.
What did I just hear from you?
Before that, though, he had Judge Stickney already out of the ground. Now, as soon as he passed out, a couple of grave robbers come walking down the street. And what do they see? It is like a kid in a candy store when they see a coffin just sitting out in the open with a passed out grave robber right next to it. So they hike this little fence that they have here, and they start to open Judge Stickney's coffin. And they begin to search. Now at this point, it's early 1900s, and Judge Stickney is pretty decayed at this point. Again, we didn't have formaldehyde until 1901, so he was falling to pieces. And because of that, it was so easy for his bones and limbs to fall apart. So he was kind of torn apart, and pieces of Judge Stickney were everywhere. But they didn't find anything until they looked and they saw his gold teeth. So they took their knives and they plucked out each one of Judge Stickney's teeth, put them in their pockets, and they ran down the street. Now, a couple of hours later, the grave digger wakes up and he sees a mess. He sees Judge Stickney everywhere missing teeth. And to avoid his boss firing him and getting angry with him, he threw the pieces of Judge Stickney back into the coffin, threw him back in the ground, covered it up, and ran and was never seen again.
I see.
Yeah. Now, oh, there's a black cat in the cemetery. I cannot make this up. There's a black cat. It is right over there.
Over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
do
there.
you see him? That is not even joking. The fourth time that this has happened. It always happens at the Faye house, but now it's happening in the cemetery. But people like to treat this little square vegetation as 500. I think they're
Okay.
We're actually coming up to where we can sit down if we need to have just a minute to rest our legs and eat.
I think we're going to go up a little bit further.
Alright, everybody, let's easy. How are we doing? Doing good? Are we enjoying the story so far?
Yeah.
Awesome. Kind of ties into the Huguenot cemetery, like we just talked about. But this was built out of coquina, which is what the fort is built out of. And actually, I want to talk just a little bit about the fort. That is actually the 10th fort that has been on that ground.
Mm-hmm.
The previous 9 were built out of wood and have rotted or burnt down or got eaten by termites. So they created this thing called coquina, and that is what this is built out of. Now, welcome to St. Augustine's one and only entrance and exit into the city at the time. Like I said, there was a wall around the whole city, and this was the only way. There was no back ways to get on St. Augustine. This was the only way to get in and out. Now, something that's not here anymore is a wooden drawbridge that used to be here. And we were known as something called a curfew town. Can we kind of assume what that means? The city would close its gates at sunset, but open it at sunrise. And if you were not here at the city, oh my God. Sorry, distraction.
We're not part of the tour.
No. Oh my God.
You're not haunting? Not really ghosts?
Those are not ghost dogs, I can assure you. Anyway, we can see a lot of dogs. That's why I love doing these tours. It's not just the ghosts and the people that I get to meet, but the dogs. Anyway, St. Augustine would close its gates at sunset and open them at sunrise. And if you were not here at the city gates before sunset, you were closed out all night. And the gates did not open for anyone until the morning. So you were left here all night with the Florida bird, the mosquitoes, and one of our most famous animals here, the alligator. It was not fun. And again, picture it without all the street lights and the cars. Nothing. Just you alone with the bay of the dancing dolphins right across the street. Get to see the floating birds. Yeah, wonderful, isn't it? Now, let's go ahead and get into our ghost. I want everybody to kind of imagine this. You're driving along this road at 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, witching hour, which is when ghosts are very active here in St. Augustine. 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's not a lot of people on the road. You're probably coming back from a party or visiting your family or visiting just friends, having a nice movie night or something. And you're driving back to your hotel room or your house or your apartment, whatever. You're driving home. And what do you see? Out of the corner of your eye, you see a little girl, about 8, 9 years old. And she's prancing and skipping, and she stops, and she waves at you. Now, what is your first move when you see a child? They're all by themselves by a usually busy road. You call the cops. Now, you tell the cops, hey, there's a little girl here by herself. I'm just worried about her safety. You know, I don't want anything to happen to her. Could you send somebody out? And they say yes. Now, the call from the 911 dispatcher to the cops goes a little something like this. Can you please send somebody to the city gates to tell Elizabeth to stop scaring people? Yeah. Now, the story behind Elizabeth, and this ties into the Huguenot cemetery. Oh, some shady. Anyway, let's enjoy the music. Now, this ties into the Huguenot cemetery. How? Well, that field I took you guys across, I totally could have took you guys on the sidewalk, right? Why didn't I? Well, I mentioned the mass burial ground, right? Yeah. Right there. That big open field next to the Huguenot cemetery is known as something called the plague pit. And actually our biggest mass burial site is right across the street. All this open land on the fort grounds is military burial ground.
Oh.
What would happen, a little brief before we get back into Elizabeth, what would happen is they would come out at night and they would check to see if you were dead. If you were dead, they would kind of bury a small, shallow grave for you and call it a night. If you were alive, they would carry you inside, hopefully you survived. Now the plague pit happened because, number one, it cost money to be buried in this emergency cemetery. I'll get to that. But also, bodies were piling up and they needed a place to put them. So they put them in this big open field. How much did it cost to get buried in there? Well, the plot itself cost $4. The tombstone cost another $4. And to have somebody dig it was another $4.
What a deal.
Yeah, no. At the time, $4 was your monthly salary. So you would have to save up for 3 months with no spending, nothing, to get buried in there. Yeah, it's horrible. Huh? Now, put that into perspective. You guys said it was a deal, a steal, what have you. Actually, now, if you go to Denny's and get a drink, it's $4 for one drink.
Right.
That says something, right?
Inflation.
Yeah, inflation. Now, Elizabeth is assumed to be buried in the plague pit. What they assume happened is little Elizabeth died from yellow fever. And, he's about to spoil it for me. Now, during yellow, give me 1 second.
We don't know what he's saying.
I got distracted. It happens all the time. I get distracted by tour guides all the time. Anyway, it is assumed that she died from yellow fever and that her mom got sick. And her dad already died. Her brothers died, and it was Elizabeth's turn. And then her mother's turn. So to get mercy on her little 8 to 9 year old daughter, she put her right here, where I am standing, and left her here. And by morning time, the guards came out of the little places and they saw her. They see a little girl dead. So they take mercy on her and they bury her across the street. That's what happened to little Elizabeth. Now we're gonna be walking through here. And I want everybody to say goodnight and wave to her because she might follow you home.
No.
No joke. Now, I see a little bit, you have a question?
No.
Okay. So I see a little bit of us, we're rubbing our eyes, we're kind of yawning. Are we ready to end the tour?
No.
No, do we want to go to our last cemetery and talk
Yes.
about one more story?
Yes.
All right, you guys are great.
It's my contest, that's all.
Okay, just making sure. I don't want anybody to, all right, parking is on mine. We don't want you. Okay, no worries. You guys are missing out on great story.
Oh, I know.
No, it's okay.
I'm like, should we stay? But
He's a huge breakfast fan, so I don't know. It's his thing.
I'm French toast at
They got French toast.
So we can't really see it from here, but in the middle of the Tolomato, there's a gravel pathway. And in the middle of that, there is a bust, a tombstone with a bust on top. That is the grave of Bishop Verreau. Now, what they did is it's made out of concrete. And hopefully we can get up close and personal with that in just a minute. But I want us to all imagine a big concrete slab. That is where he is buried. And he is not under it. He is inside of the concrete. What they did after he died, and after they scraped up the little bits and pieces of the bishop, they kind of tossed him into the metal box and poured concrete on top of him. And they smacked him dead center of the Huguenot cemetery, or no, the Tolomato cemetery. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, okay. So the Tolomato was, it was built in 1777. Before that, it was the little village of Tolomato. Yeah, a Native American village. And we know what happens when things are built on Native American things. Yeah. Now, the Tolomato cemetery actually extended in all four directions. And one of the more notable parts is at the end of the street where Potter's is. Potter's is built on what is believed to be their marked burial ground. And in the back of the Tolomato, there's a parking lot that is believed to be their unmarked burial ground. But also I've heard that the little village of Tolomato went on for about 4,000 years. It's an old village. Bulldozed to the ground and turned into the Tolomato Cemetery, which is actually St. Augustine's oldest Catholic cemetery, and more notably inside of the walls of St. Augustine. Yeah. So let's go ahead and discuss the last ghost of tonight. And there is a picture that I will show us all. We like pictures. Now, actually, this little ghost is a little boy. And he likes, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? No.
I just turned 9 months.
He likes little children under the ages of 12. And he is a 5-year-old boy by the name of James Patrick Morgan.
The boys.
Nothing.
He wants to play.
Yeah, he asked you to play. He talks to you.
If you're in the cemetery or out.
Outside, inside.
Let's see if you can see him. You're the only one here who's old enough to see.
Yeah. Actually, I recommend that when we are able to take pictures, we have the youngest here take a picture because he is more likely to get something. Now, little James actually died in 1877, which is 100 years after the Tolomato was built. Isn't that something? I think it's just a little creepy that it was about exactly 100 years after the Tolomato was built. Sorry about the loud. So rude. Now,
I like that car way better.
yeah, it's quiet, isn't it?
That
It's a nice car. I like the color. Anyway. Ghost. Little boy, ghost, no ghost cars. Now, on this particular day, James decided that he wanted to tell his mom that he wanted to go play. But in the 1800s, there was really nothing for little kids to do. So he decided, because he lived right down the street, that he would play in the cemetery. And his favorite thing to do was to climb the trees. Now we're gonna look at Mr. Dion's group. Do we all see that tall oak tree right there?
Yeah.
That is called James's tree. And that was his favorite tree to climb in. And actually, we have hurricanes so often here in Florida that it devastates St. Augustine because it floods. But no limb has fallen from that tree. Not a branch, not a leaf, nothing. We like to believe that James protects his tree. It's a sad story, but a sweet ghost. James is not mean. But on this particular day, James asks his mom, can I go play? I'm bored. And she goes, yes, James, but be back before dinner. Before she can finish her sentence, he's running out the door, running into the Tolomato, and climbing up on the steps. Or not the steps, the tree. Sorry about that. Got distracted with him. Like I said to the other people, I have a bit of ADHD, so I get distracted easily.
Easy to get distracted here.
I know. So just bear with me. But James's favorite thing to do. Do we all see that pocket that's right there? It's behind the gate. There's a little pocket. He used to not talk about James. He stopped talking about him for a little bit to get more stories in. Because believe it or not, there are more stories here in St. Augustine than you'll ever believe. But he kind of stopped talking about James for a little bit to get these other stories in. When all of a sudden he started to get hit on the back of the head. And ever since then, he never leaves James out of his story because of that. Now, after that, he decided that he wanted to be brave and to be daring. And he climbed out on one of those branches over there. And actually, I'm a big boy and I'm going to climb the branch. So he shimmied his way out to the branch and he made it. He was so excited and happy until he turned around and he realized how far away he was from the tree. He got scared. He started shaking and shaking and shaking until he fell right where his tombstone lays. Now, picture the little boy is often seen in the tree. And I will get to a picture in a second. But James's mother was so upset with him that he wasn't back before dinner time. My job.
Yeah. Do you get to see any bones pop up?
Unfortunately, no.
Maybe that's the fortunate part.
It depends on who you are. Me, I think it would be pretty cool. Oh, that's really decorative ones around here. What? We have some really decorative ones around here. Yeah. I've never seen them that pretty. Oh, hello. More friends. More friends. Hi, you. Hi, baby.
Hello. Back where we start.
Back when we started, we all know where we are.
Home again.
No. Pepper has gone home for the night. But everybody, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for choosing a ghostly encounter, and thank you for doing a walking tour with us tonight. I hope that we had a good time. I know you didn't really enjoy the pretzels, and I'm so sorry for that. I hope that we had a good time. Okay, good. I hope that everybody did enjoy the pretzels and the spooky stories and the nice little legend about the love tree. I hope that we all enjoyed it. Now, I actually have a barcode that people can scan to leave me a nice review if you don't mind. My boss, it helps her know that people actually enjoyed me. If you didn't enjoy me, my name is Steve. So, just in case, but here's the barcode for those who want it. And I also accept a little bit of compensation, if you know what I mean. And my friends Cash App and Venmo also accept the compensation.
Okay, well, thank you so very much for the tour.
Have a great night.
Thank you.